Hello, everybody. Welcome back to Wild Chat Facts. I am Ryan. Over there is Maria, as always. And guys, today the topic is going to be all about alligators. So basically, we have scoured the internet. We've found all the fun things that we liked about alligators, and we put them on a list, and we bring them here, and then we talk about them. I know, isn't that fun? All right, Mar.
Okay, with that note.
It actually really is fun. I found a lot of really cool stuff about alligators. And then when you start to talk about alligators and crocodiles and the differences between them, and then there's very specific superstitions that are one the other because they're around different cultures around the world. So
Exactly.
I actually did find a lot of really fun stuff. So that was meant to be condescending, and I don't think it came off that way. So, Mar, do you want to kick us off?
Yes, first of all, cheers with my swamp water.
Swamp. Okay. All right. Just looks like Mountain Dew to me.
No, it's like literally tea. Look.
Oh, okay. Okay. Mountain Dew tea. I didn't know Mountain Dew made a tea, but okay. All right.
So I wanted to bring I drink tea all the time. So this is matcha tea from
Okay.
Japan.
All right.
But it looks like swamp water, so that was my honor. But going back to the issue of alligators,
The issue of alligators.
the issue or the subject of alligators, I actually found it hilarious that, well, not couple of parts to this. So alligators are very they like to be in communities. They like to
Okay.
be together. And the communities or the social animals who you will not think they're social, they're actually called congregations.
Okay. Okay. They've got a choir too, so that makes sense. It feels like that would be the name. I mean, you ever see them around and they always have their mouths open, like they're singing, and we just can't hear it. It's too high pitched. No. All right. All right. Did you know that said congregation, because alligators are clearly not fish, they are reptiles. So if they're actually kept underwater too long, they can drown. So I never thought about it. It's common sense, but there's certain things that you just never think about because you're just so used to seeing them in water. Uh,
Hmm.
but yeah.
And there are other reptiles who are the same way, and like even dolphins and whales and turtles who are reptiles. The others are mammals. But they'll
Hmm.
drown too.
Yeah. Okay.
So speaking of singing, like you were saying something about singing, actually they do have bellows. It's infrasonic, so we cannot hear them. But the males actually sing their choirs to the females and make bubbles.
Yeah, I read something about that. They actually vibrate, and then that vibration, like in their what would essentially be their chest area, kind of ripples the water too. So it's a combination of the sound and the vibration and stuff like that. I think I actually put it in one of our animal dancing videos that's coming out for one of our podcasts. I actually considered that a dance, and then I threw it in there. So if you didn't get to see that one, you got the fun fact here from me and Maria at the same time. Okay, superstitions. The Burmese believe that the bite of an alligator would be harmless if if the king would issue an edict in the man's favor. So I don't know how this works. I don't know if you gotta like show up to court and then ask for permission and then the alligator bites you. I don't know how you would like. No, hold on, Mr. Alligator, hold on. We got to go to the king first. Then we'll move on after the edict. But I don't know how that works.
I got that one too. I thought that was a peculiar, belief, but
Uh
hey.
huh. Uh huh.
So there are actually two types of alligators. People confuse crocodiles and alligators because they're all crocodilian. They're all from the same family. They just diverted several millions ago. They diverted, but they are crocodilian. They're within the same higher classification, basically. But there are
Okay.
two types of alligators. We have the Chinese alligator and we have the American alligator. The cool thing is the Chinese alligator, or not cool, it's actually pretty, they're
It's not considered
critically
cool.
endangered species. They're not just endangered, they're critically endangered. They're only found in the Yangtze River.
Mm-hmm.
And they were known as mud dragons.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
The only hope, well, one of the hopes there is the actually American alligators were on the endangered species list at 1.2, and through conservation and everything else, their population has made such a comeback. They're not on any classification of any endangerment list. So I'm hoping that Chinese alligators are somehow able to make that same
They are working on it. They're
recovery.
definitely working on it.
So alligators can actually go up to 3 years without food. Because they're cold-blooded animals, they're able to slow their metabolism down to a point for survival. So when your metabolism's lower, you're not taking in calories. So basically, they can kind of almost put themselves in stasis for 2 to even 3 years to be able to go without food. And then again, fitting the same thing. If you ever see them in ice or frozen situations, if their snouts are above the ice, they're okay. Don't bother them. Don't mess with them. As long as their snout's above the water, they can't drown. So we talked about them being able to drown. But their snout is above the ice. They can basically almost put themselves into like this state of like metabolic hibernation. So they are doing as well as they can. They're adapted for stuff like that, is I guess the best way to say it.
And the American alligator is adapted better because they are more prone to being in areas where they can freeze. And if you really want to protect the animal, don't touch it. Just leave it. If you think you're doing them any favor, you're actually not.
Yeah.
Because actually being exposed to the elements outside of that water is worse.
Yeah.
But here's an interesting thing. If you talk about alligators, and if you're ever in Florida and you actually want to see alligators, many people, many tour guides will actually use marshmallows to lure them out. And it's
Okay.
not because marshmallows are delicious sweetness that are fluffy made of from heaven. No, it's because they resemble eggs, and alligators like to eat eggs. The only problem is, although this is fascinating, they're actually disrupting the animal, and sweetness is not part of their diet. So you're actually not helping them at all.
Yeah. Yeah. Exactly. Okay, let's see. Make sure you look up because alligators can climb trees, guys. So if there's no rocks or open areas for them to bask on because they're cold-blooded, they need to regulate their temperatures via the sun, more of it or less of it. So when they need more of it, you'll usually see alligators and crocodiles basking in the sun. Well, there's certain areas, and I think it's more prone for the Chinese alligators because the Yangtze is more, there's more canopy, there's more, stuff that's covering the sunlight from getting to the ground. But also for American alligators, if they can't find a spot to bask and get the sun in, they'll climb a tree and actually hang out on the limbs and stuff. Obviously, this is more the smaller ones that don't weigh as much, and the juveniles. But yes, always look up. There's an extra dimension, left, right, and up if you're checking your safety from animals in general. Good strategy.
I just cannot imagine a 200-pound alligator climbing. So I'm glad you specified the smaller kind because you just cannot imagine a
Yeah.
6-foot alligator like, oh, let's just go up on the sun.
They can if they can find a branch that can support them, they can do it. They're equally as capable of climbing, and as the bigger ones actually have stronger tails. And we've talked about this in a crocodile video where when you see crocodiles jumping out of the water, what they're doing, they're not jumping, they're actually pinning their tails to the riverbed and pushing off of the dirt, and that's what's propelling them into the air. So alligators can actually do the same thing. You're pushing with your tail off the ground that gets you going. And then they can utilize it that way. So if there was branches strong enough, I'm sure the big ones could do it also.
So did you know that if you going back to the issue of choirs and stuff like that,
Okay.
that alligators' voices, they can tune them up just like humans do because apparently their voice, like their vocal mechanisms, are very similar to ours.
Okay.
And they found this out by putting helium, like making them inhale helium, and they noticed that their voices, the pitches changed.
Okay.
Now, I don't know whomever was in charge of this research, but
Yeah.
they put helium on it so they could be talking like this.
Yeah, I feel like that's completely unnecessary. I mean, all you have to do is watch a Disney movie, and it's very clear. You watch the cartoons. I mean, these guys can sing. Almost every animal in the animal kingdom can sing. So, all right. Okay, I actually found this really interesting. Unlike a lot of animals on the planet, and there's a few that fit into the category with crocodiles and alligators, but they actually don't have a finite lifespan. Alligators will just continue to grow. Now, they're not immortal because what happens is they continue to grow. So as they get bigger, they need more food and more of the things that sustain their body. So at a certain point, and this is the sad part, is they just get too big to maintain themselves. And then essentially they die of starvation. which is essentially a way of dying of old age if you're an alligator, since you have an infinite lifespan, but it just gets to a point where they can't sustain themselves anymore.
I thought that was such a sad and one of those awe and sad facts because I also found it. And what was cool is snakes are the same. So
Okay.
snakes shed their skin and they keep growing and they have similar situations.
Okay.
Environmental challenges and other things is what causes them to pass away, not
Yeah.
necessarily old age. So they
Hmm.
can keep growing forever.
Yeah, unless people feed them too many marshmallows and they lose their hunting instinct. So.
Actually, yeah,
Yeah.
very good point.
Yeah.
So I have a fact that kind of ties with it, but I want to put it just because you're talking about old age.
Okay.
So the oldest alligator in the world, her name or his name, is Muja, and Muja is 85 years old. So he's the
Okay.
oldest alligator. There was a Russian also, a Russian one, but they don't know the age or, but he's the only remaining alligator who survived many attacks and many things. And he lives in Belgrade and has survived even World War II.
Okay.
And yeah, it's very interesting. It's an American alligator. So if you ever go to Serbia, go to the Belgrade Zoo and you'll find Muja.
Yes. Unless you're from Florida, then just open your door and look down the street and you'll see plenty of them and you don't have to go anywhere to visit an
Yeah, but
alligator.
you will see them like only 5 feet. Like the biggest is 5 feet, and you're like, okay, you're adorable, you're cute,
Gotcha.
but you're not Muja. You know, you're not.
All right. Let's see. Despite being known as aggressive predators, they're not naturally aggressive towards humans, and that's one of the big differences between crocodiles and alligators. Crocs will bite your legs if you walk by. Alligators just kind of chill. Like you're not on their menu for the. I'm not saying walk by the nose of an alligator by any means. Do not do that. But that's one of their defining differences. And they basically keep to themselves and don't usually attack humans unless they're threatened, of course. And expert advice was that if an alligator approaches you, you want to raise your hands and look as big as possible and back up. First off, they shouldn't be approaching you. They don't care about it, so they're approaching you because they're threatened, which is the important part of backing up. You don't maybe they have eggs or something and you don't know where their nest is or you kind of went into some sensitive area, so just be aware of where you're at and then if the alligator does not retreat, you want to turn around and run. And as we've said many times on the show, you do not run in a zigzag. That is a myth. Because think about this logically. If you're chasing someone, you're just trying to catch up with them before you try to grab them. So if they're running in a zigzag, they're just helping you make up ground. So straight and as fast as you can.
And the thing is, they're really fast. Like people think alligators are slow. They're very fast.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, possibilities of you are running them and then try to climb a tree and they can climb. How
Yes,
scary is
yes,
that?
exactly, exactly.
But it's pretty cool because speaking of they're very good parents. They have really good instincts, and because of that, many turtles often actually lay their eggs in alligators' nests because
Mm-hmm.
they know the alligators will guard them.
Mm-hmm.
So
Mm-hmm.
that has been a strategy, and that they have been using
It's called lazy parenting. That's the strategy. Um,
or
uh,
practical in their world.
this one was just weird. It's slightly alligator related, but a few years ago, a scientist in Wisconsin gene engineered a virus that could cause chickens to grow alligator like teeth. Yeah. Again, who's doing this research and why?
Well, I think we're trying to understand the world around us, but still, there is always a limitation, and they're also using chickens to try to bring back dinosaurs. So
Okay.
go figure. But speaking of names and weird things, avocados, which thanks to the megafauna, they still exist, and thanks to humans and their delightful flavor that the avocados have, we have been perpetrating the species. They used to be called alligator pears, but they had to change the name because alligator pears, especially in England, people thought that they were pears, so they were trying to make pie with it,
Yes.
and they found out that it wasn't working. Now, moving forward in the future, as we're right now, avocados have been used now for making pies or pudding and ice cream and all kinds of stuff. So we have evolved a ton from the alligator pear to the avocado
Yes.
era.
and they have a lot of weird flavors if you go different places in the world. If you ever go to Asia, anybody, the chip flavors are amazing, and very strange. Um, let's see, where are we at? Alligators can make their heartbeat as low as 1 beat per minute, and this is what we were talking about with the ice and stuff, where they can essentially put themselves into hibernation. But basically, when they do that, pythons and other snakes, unfortunately, because they're invasive species in Florida, where most of the alligators are, actually think they're dead. So they'll start to eat them, and you guys may have seen some of the graphic photos online of the alligator bursting out of the side of the snake. So the snake thinks it's dead because it put itself into metabolic hibernation with their heartbeat at 1 beat per minute, and then get a rude awakening, very, very literally, when the alligators awaken and essentially just start wiggling around as they wake themselves up and exit the snake stage left or right.
That is very scary, by the way. But there is also a problem with alligators. It's not just a problem with snakes. NASA has a problem with them. Actually, alligators have been such a problem because they keep climbing fences. They're really good fence climbers.
Okay.
And they actually enter buildings overnight. So,
Oh.
Houston,
Wow.
we have a problem.
Yes, you do. Yes, you
Wouldn't
do.
be Houston, but whatever.
Oh, let's see.
Canaveral, we have a problem.
Cape Canaveral? Yes, okay. Alligators watch from above the water, but they listen and feel vibrations of prey below the water. So if you ever notice, that's one of the bigger differences too between alligators and crocodiles. Alligators kind of have their eyes above the water. And I know this is in a fact a little bit later, but I'm just going to paraphrase it because I love this. That's one of the big differences between alligators and crocodiles too, is alligators actually can hunt while in the water. They can open their mouth and catch fish and stuff. Where crocodiles, they have a membrane that's attached to the top of their mouth, and they don't have the same flap. If you've ever seen like a valve when you're blowing up an inner tube, you blow in and then the valve closes so the air can't escape. Alligators have that, so they can open their mouths and take in fish and not drown, essentially. Where crocodiles don't. They don't have that valve at the back of their throat. So crocodiles actually have to hunt on land for the most part because they can't open their mouths in water, which is one of the other reasons that crocodiles are a lot more aggressive on land. Alligators do a lot of their hunting, or have the ability to do hunting in the water and basically swimming up and scooping up fish and stuff.
Yeah, and alligators are also there's a word I can think of right now, but they'll hunt whatever they find. Like alligators are so even though they will not attack humans as they because they are the type of hunter who will just hunt whatever, they
Yeah.
could become very dangerous to children.
Yes.
Because they're like, "Oh, you're small enough, let's do this." And if the prey is too large, I have the fact somewhere around here. If the prey is too large, they will actually stash the rest. So their teeth they're not sharp as predator teeth, but they're good for crushing. So if the prey is too big, then they'll stash it away, and then they wait for the stuff to soften up, to
Break it.
marinate, and then they'll take it out and then finish it. So that's why you see them rolling. Like when you see an alligator and they're rolling, it's because they're trying to separate the flesh.
Yeah, the death roll is one of the most scary and impressive things. If you guys get a chance, look it up somewhere. Crocodiles do it too, I think, but just look up death roll, and then picture yourself in that position. You do not want to be there.
No.
Let's see. All right. Airplanes in America collide with an average of 1 alligator a year on runways. So it's not just NASA. It's vehicles. They all got a problem with alligators.
Alligators are just something else. So there was a story in 1996 of a child who got lost. He had autism, 10 years old. He got lost in a swamp in Florida, and he was fine. They found him 4 days later, and the child was fine. Like, I remember this story when it came out. The alligators didn't do anything to the kid, or the pythons for that matter.
Yeah, that kind of comes in line with we're definitely not on the menu of alligators for the most part. Again, until we
But he's
threaten
a
it.
10-year-old child. Like, I don't,
Yeah.
not that big of a kid.
Let's see. Okay, so we were talking earlier about Maria was talking about how and when alligators and crocodiles split, and basically it was somewhere their common ancestor was somewhere around 93 to 100 million years ago, um, and the extinction of the dinosaurs was 65 million years ago. So crocodiles and alligators actually split a long, long time before even dinosaurs went extinct. So most people kind of wonder, are they able to like interbreed or mate in any way? They look very similar, but there is millions, up to 100 millions of years between them splitting. So it is impossible for an alligator and a crocodile to actually reproduce.
Yeah, even if you try. So in the early 1900s, this is a story. In the early 1900s in Chattanooga, um, they actually had a fountain and they put two alligators in it. And that
Okay.
was to keep the birds and the dogs and just anybody from entering the fountain and making a mess. Well, they had to remove it because even though there was a fence around, they kept climbing the fences and they tried to escape all the time. So they had to actually get rid of the alligators.
That would make sense. That would make sense. I came, I came across that one too, and then my first thought in my mind was like, well, what are they eating? Like, who's feeding them? Like, they don't need to eat often, but I don't know how big that fountain is. Even if it's like the Trevi Fountain in Rome, that's not a big habitat for them. And then you fence them in, and the purpose was to keep the things that they might want to eat away from the fountain. Yeah, I thought that whole thing
I
was
think
kind
the
of
fence will have probably been enough.
yeah,
The thing is, even if the fence was this much, just as a decoration, sorry,
yeah.
basically, because that most people would not imagine a crocodile climbing.
But then, so my second thought, and you guys might have also had this same thought that I had. What was in the fountain that was so valuable? Like you got to put crocodiles in there to keep them away. Like what is was it made of gold? Was it a
No, I
historical?
think it was just so they didn't want people swimming in it.
Right. Okay. That seems. I'm gonna chalk that up to overkill. I'm putting that in the category of overkill.
Totally agree.
Okay. All right. Um. Let's see. Okay, this talks about chirping and signals to birds. I'm gonna skip that. We already talked about them singing a bit and some of their vibrations and stuff. So one of the greatest predatorial threats to alligators is actually raccoons. There's not that many people the animals that still exist within the habitat, unfortunately, because of the invasive species of snakes that are there. But raccoons basically like to eat alligator eggs. So you would
Hmm.
not think if I were to say their biggest predator threat was raccoons, you'd probably laugh at me, but it's because they're eating their young, so they can't reproduce.
Yep.
Um, and let's see. Oh, this was interesting. Alligator eggs are susceptible to drowning, being crushed by female predators, or being eaten, or other calamities. Raccoons are the primary predator, although hogs, otters, and bears have been reported also scavenging in their nests. Um, 80% of young alligators, after they're already hatched and on the loose, definitely raccoons are no longer a threat. But then they get to deal with bobcats. So
Okay, just a little problem.
yeah, 80% of young alligators, actually 80% fall prey to bobcats. Birds. Okay, I guess some raccoons still try to eat the alligators after they're born. Snakes, otters, large bass, and of course, other larger alligators.
I
So
mean, the thing is, they're not that big when they're
they're
born.
tiny. Yeah, tiny, tiny.
So yeah, they're easy prey. And yeah, when we think of an alligator, we think of a gigantic animal, but we don't realize that the first 2 years they grow about a foot
Okay.
and then they slow down their growth. Alligators are not as big as crocodiles. And even though they could live for longer and longer, it's not like they're going to grow exponentially 1 foot every year.
Yeah.
Otherwise, if they live 85 years, then we're going to have to,
Yeah.
build a castle around Muja.
Or make a
But
movie. or something like that, of one of those like horror movies that has a ridiculously large version of plug in said animal here.
Exactly, exactly. So they grow exponentially. They don't grow exponentially. They just kind of, but still they keep growing a lot.
Mhm.
But as an interesting fact,
Okay.
this is my fact, not
Okay.
add on to yours, is
Gotcha.
their brain is not that big. It's about the size of a quarter.
No, that's not true, Maria, because your quiz question, one of the many quiz questions, was going to be give me the size. Now we're going to come back to quizzes. We got a few more facts to do, but since Maria's already brought it up, we're going to do a pre-quiz quiz for everybody. And now Maria has what she thinks is the truth, because I saw that fact also. But then I did a little more research, and I found a better analogy to the size of an alligator's brain.
Really?
Question to everybody and to Maria is, what size is the brain of the average American alligator? And you may answer relative to how many olives.
So the thing is, when you mix olives, or when you mix around, or when you mix anything that is round, it's not like because you say 5 diameter, then if you add another 5, it's gonna be 10. That doesn't work that way. The surface changes,
Okay.
but it doesn't double. I mean, if we
Okay.
know anything about circumference and
Okay.
in area. So olive wise, I'll say 2 olives or 3.
That sounds like two different answers to me, Maria. Would you like to go with 2 olives or 3 olives?
If it's the size of a quarter, then it's gonna have to be 3 olives.
Interesting. You are correct. It is 3 olives. But then
Mm-hmm.
looking at the quarter, I'm like, well, that'd be like 1 olive, maybe 2 olives tops. Like, quarters aren't that big. Like, I would not say that 3 olives is equal to 1 quarter, but that's part of why I did the extra research. I was like, a quarter doesn't fit to me because there's no 3 dimension to it for the most part. I know they're ever so
Mm-hmm.
slightly.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah. All right, we're going back now. I will let you do the next one because I have to find my place in line, but that just brought up one of my quiz questions, so I had to go for it.
So now I have to scroll through mine because we're telling. So okay, so in Louisiana, there is a myth or a belief that alligators have the power to basically tell you the future.
Okay.
So keep an eye. Now, many houses in Louisiana, when I say under the house or things like that, is because they may be on stilts
Okay.
because of the bayou. So just keep that in mind.
Okay.
So in Louisiana, if an alligator crawls under the house, then it is perceived that it's going to be a calamity in your home. There's going to be a calamity on your home.
There's
So
an
pay
alligator under,
attention to
of
that.
course. Of course.
Huh?
There's an alligator underneath, and of course there's going to be a calamity in your home.
No, because most of the time they keep walking. I mean, if the houses are on stilts, they'll keep moving along. But if it crawls under your house and yeah, you're right. If there is a small dog, there will be a calamity.
Silly. I was just being silly. All right, guys. This is when you know you're having a bad day. All right. This is the this might be the epitome of a bad day, actually. In 2012, a man in Florida had his hand bitten off by an alligator, and then he was later charged with illegally feeding an alligator, offered a citation. I had to look into this one a little bit further, guys, and basically this is what happened. The guy was actually a tour guide, so he was trying to get alligators to come to the boat so people could see them. So his way of doing that would be holding a fish out
Or
so
the or
the
the marshmallows.
side of the boat so the alligators would come. So he did not get the citation for feeding the alligator his hand. He got the citation for feeding the alligator the fish that the alligator then also took.
Hmm. I don't feel bad though. I don't feel bad though. Thing.
Okay. All right.
Well, I mean, wild animals are wild, and whether we try to predict it or not, it's something is gonna happen.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean,
Mhm.
that's definitely not the way to go about your business in general. So,
So I have a question for you. It's
oh,
not a
okay.
quiz question, just a question.
What's your question? Okay.
Do you think alligators sweat?
See, my next fact is about alligator tears, but that's not sweat. Um, I mean, with all those plates and stuff, I just no, because mammals sweat because they need to actually like it's a heat regulating thing, and they're lizards, so they don't need that. That's why they open their mouths to cool off. So I'm gonna say no. No, they don't sweat.
Very good, and your deduction was really right.
Okay.
They
All right.
actually are, because they don't regulate their temperature the way we do.
Yes.
Like,
Okay.
so yes, that was actually very good. Good job. Like, I'm impressed at how you deducted it.
Well, we did the alligator video also for Wild Chats was one of the first ones that we did. So I did learn
Mm-hmm.
a little bit along the way, and then this kind of reinforced some of it.
Yep.
So it's really the only reason I do this show is so I can actually be smarter, and then I look cool at like cocktail parties and stuff, just because I have all these random facts to
I,
spit
I
out.
actually gotta say, I do love that. Like, to me, random information makes me so happy.
Mm-hmm.
And
Mm-hmm.
especially if I go to the zoo, I'm like, oh, did you know that? Blah, 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 blah. People are looking at me like, are you a tour guide? Like,
Did
no,
you work
just a
here?
regular human.
All right, guys. So crocodile tears. So following close observations, it was found that the foamy, frothy liquid that actually emerges from the eyes, and it's all caimans, like caimans and alligators. I'm pretty sure, and obviously they're called crocodile tears for a reason. Um, and basically, it happens when they're fed. So the hypothesis is that the tears occur due to the huffing and hissing that you hear from
Mhm.
caimans when they eat, and essentially it forces air through their sinuses. If you guys have ever blown your nose or anything, you know that your mouth is connected through your sinuses to your nose. Theirs goes the other way. So they're huffing and hissing, and then that air injection goes into their tear ducts, mixes with the fluid there, and it comes out as foam.
Hmm.
Uh, mm-hmm, mm-hmm. And it basically lubricates their eyes also. So it serves a practical function on top of that. And then
That
I
is
know
awesome.
I've read other places and I can't find the fact here, but something I guess there's certain birds that actually like drink the liquid off of their eyes, and it's actually like a liquid resource for because there's a big relationship. And again, we did this in our crocodile video, and we had a video about what crocodiles and birds. That
Yes.
It's really strange how symbiotic that relationship is because I see a bird near a crocodile and I'm like, okay, he's just waiting to be lunch. But they like certain birds pick food out from in between their teeth. Uh,
Hmm.
see birds of like cranes and stuff hitching a ride on their back. So there is a weird, and again, it's because a lot of these caiman and crocodilian, they don't need to eat that often. So it might be that their common experience, bird to crocodile, alligator, any crocodilian, isn't threatening to them because there's only, if you think of it, eat twice a year or something, then probably only 1 out of 200 interactions does the croc actually go after it. So there's an interesting relationship that's been built up.
And also, just because they are hunters and they're the apex predators doesn't mean they're always going to attack. That's another misconception, is you will see lions and zebras on side by side if there's a watering hole, and
Yeah.
it's like there is like I don't want to make it romanticize it, but it's like an unspoken treaty that they have amongst themselves between predators and prey.
Mm-hmm.
And so I have a story
Okay.
of crocodiles as parents, and I'll summarize it really quickly. There was a place, an alligator. It's called Alligator Farm. Is a zoological park in Florida, and they actually were really worried about allowing the female to incubate the eggs
Okay.
because they were in a close encounter, and they were worried about she basically flatten making omelet on those eggs.
And that's
And
we talked about that in the previous fact, where that's one of the threats to their eggs. It's not only other animals that's just being squished in.
exactly. So what they did is like, okay, we're gonna save. So what they did is they saved some of the eggs to
Okay.
incubate them, but left others just to see what she would do.
Okay.
And what she did is she built a nest, and she built it in a corner, and it was actually really cool because she built it in an area where people could see it.
Okay.
And so she built a nest there, and then she basically waited. And what they found out is that she was a very good mother, but then they were concerned because she will get closer to the nest, and then she will grab some eggs, and people are like, oh my gosh, they're gonna just eat the newborn hatchlings. And no, what she does is she takes the eggs near the water and helps the babies come out, like she cracks them a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
So that, and what she's doing is she's listening.
Mm-hmm.
So she listens to their babies, grabs them, helps them crack, and the male was there too. And they were worried that the male was going to harm the eggs as well. And they
Okay.
found out that no, he actually was helping too. And where she built the nest had an underwater spring. So it was actually nice and warm, but it wasn't drowning them.
Okay.
And it was just incredible, their experiment of how well these Siamese crocodiles did, and how when they incorporated the ones that they had taken away to incubate, and they put them together, they were all fine.
I guess the weird parts of that story to me is why would you doubt that they wouldn't be good parents? I mean, they wouldn't exist for the millions of years they have existed if they constant. I mean, like I know pandas have that reputation where the baby pandas are so small and pandas are tend to be a little bit clumsy that they will squish their little teeny tiny offspring, and that's a concern. But and I've said this in other videos, pandas is one of those species that humans say if we weren't around, they wouldn't still be around. It's like avocados. Like if it wasn't for us, they would have already been gone on their own, not because of us, um, because of parenting strategies like that. So it is strange to me that they would have, a zoo especially, would even be like, oh, she can't be a good parent. She's going to crush her eggs. We better take them. Like that is
Well,
the
they
story.
were according to their, and it wasn't a so according to them it says, through though mother alligators are usually very good parents, some literature implies that male American alligators tend to not be so good, or worse, they may
Ah,
eat the hatchlings. So they were concerned because the two parents were together.
gotcha. Gotcha.
Hmm?
Okay. Well, I had some other fun stuff, and but I'm gonna go ahead and leave it for another time because I want to get into the quizzes, guys. So this is
Let's do
your.
it.
Do you have anything else you want to share, Mar, before we switch on over? You got any more fun facts
No,
that people have
no,
to
I
hear?
was very excited to finish my mind with a happy note of amazing parenting skills
Okay.
these guys have.
Okay. All right, guys. So we're gonna move over to the quiz sections. We kind of created this section just because it's fun for us because I like to see what Mar knows, and then we get to give each other hints to lead us to the answer. But also, this is your opportunity, Jeopardy style, to like yell the answer at the screen or your radio, wherever you're listening as a podcast or watching on TV, and berate us for how unintelligent we are and how is it that we can't know the answer to this specific question. It's the easiest thing on the planet. And all those other things people do when they're watching game shows and they think that or know that they are smarter than the contestants. So,
This is a little scary, you guys.
yes, I've got three, but we already did one. So I had three in total. How many do you have?
I actually ended up with one because the others you said it.
Okay, cool. So I'll start with mine, and then you can do one, and then we'll do another one, and we'll probably be over 45 minutes.
Perfect. Let's do it.
Okay, let's see. Okay, do you know who coined the phrase alligator?
Wasn't it Shakespeare?
Mar, you're supposed to give the people in the audience time. Now you look like a genius. Yes. Shakespeare, the creator of like hundreds of words in the English language, was the first person to actually refer to them as alligators.
I mean, I read it a while ago and I have forgotten about it. So
Okay.
I am very proud of myself.
All right.
Like,
You want
no,
to?
Maria, no, Maria.
You were too fast. I'll give you another one of mine, and then we'll be basically even. So we'll go me, you.
Okay.
Let's see. Do you think, knowing their diets and the research that you've done, this is just a yes or no, it's like a 50-50 coin flip here. Could you ever imagine alligators eating like fruits and vegetables? What is
No.
their diet for the most part?
For the most part, it is carnivore.
Okay.
I'm gonna go with that. I
Yeah,
may be completely wrong.
it'd be omnivore if it was both. We'll give everybody in the audience out there watching a chance to kind of think this through a little bit. And do you think that alligators would eat fruits or vegetables? And if you've ever watched those fun compilations on Facebook where they've got all the different animals eating watermelon, have you seen that one? It's just like animal after animal eating a watermelon. You haven't
Yes.
seen this one, haven't you? Okay. Well,
No, I've seen some. but
They they may
now I'm
not have
worried that there is an alligator in it.
they may not have been included in the videos, but yes, you will. They will eat fruits and vegetables. An alligator's diet can include fruits and plants if available. Alligators are carnivores, but at least some alligators housed with large tortoises at the St. Augustine Alligator Farm and Zoological Park were
That's the one I
seen
was just quoting.
were seen eating lettuce, leaves, and squash put out for the tortoises. The alligators had also been seen eating kumquats, oranges, lemons, and limes.
So
Now, the first
citrus,
question in my
citrus
mind is,
fruits.
did you eat it because it was nutritious, or you just wanted to give the nanny to the tortoises because you were in a race and you got to the food before they did, so you ate it?
That's actually a very interesting point because also they may learn. So they may have learned to eat it. I mean, just like observation, they're like, oh yeah, well, if the turtle eats it, why not? Let's try it. Because
Like,
also turtles and alligators become friends.
yes.
Like they have found. I mean,
Mm.
as you said, in that particular place, they were together.
All right, what do you got for me, Mar? And the audience.
I think you already know this one, and I may have given it away already.
Okay.
Perhaps, maybe not.
Like Red Hot
So
Chili Peppers.
who's
Give it
huh?
away, give it away now. Red Hot Chili Peppers. Give it away, give
Oh,
it away, give it away now.
okay.
No? Okay. Moving on.
So who is the alligator more closely related to? A salamander, a lizard, or a chicken?
See, had you not even prefaced it with, I think I've already given this one away, I would have forgotten about the hint. But I'm going to give everybody in the audience a second to think. So we've got salamander, lizard, and chicken. Now, I'm going to reverse engineer this and make it sound like I'm smart and guess that since everybody thinks Tyrannosaurus rex had feathers and they're actually pretty closely related to that type of animal, that it's going to be chicken. I'm going to go that way with it.
You're right.
The reason you think that it had already gotten given away was my fact that the scientists were growing chicken with alligator teeth. So clearly their DNA must have been close enough to be able to put it into the chicken egg to produce the teeth.
That is very right. And salamanders are amphibians. So
Hey, when you go back far enough, it's pretty weird which animals are actually related. I mean, we talked about it before. Like hyenas aren't anywhere near dogs. They're like related to, what was it?
to civet.
Yes, exactly. So, was it
Or a
mongoose?
mongoose.
Right? Yeah, they look nothing like either of those animals. They look like dogs, yet hyenas most closely related to those. All right, my last.
But hold on, alligators are part of a larger group called archosaurs. So that they were 250 million years ago. They were related.
Yeah, because their dividing point, like I said in my previous fact, was like 93 million to 100 million years ago was their.
Between crocodiles and alligators, but between birds and crocodilians, 250 million years.
Okay.
Mhm.
Yes. Evolution is a wonderful thing. All right, guys. I hope you enjoyed the show. We are going to call it a day. Well, we're going to jump on over to the backstage show as we always do. If you guys
Usually.
are, well, okay. Usually, always do. If you guys found us through Wild Chats, we actually started the show because you guys wanted more information on some of the fun and funny animals that were in the video clips we were talking about. But I would highly encourage you to go over and check out Undiscovered Worlds. Basically, it's the same exact format, but we're getting away from the animals a little bit. Maria and I had so much fun doing these that we decided to mix it up. So over there, we kind of pick a random topic, and we basically do the same thing. We scour the internet and find all the fun facts we can. Thus far, we've recorded, I don't know if they're released yet, but we've recorded food, baby humans, because we separated baby animals we're going to do on here, which is going to be a lot of fun. There's a lot of really fun baby animal facts out there. And we've done aliens, and I think we're moving on to gravity next. So there's a lot of fun stuff in there. If you guys want to learn and be entertained, go for it. Click the subscribe button here if you have not. Jump over there, check out a few videos, and click the subscribe button over at Undiscovered Worlds if you guys enjoy the show. We're jumping over to the backstage, so if you are Patreon subscribers, jump on over there, and we'll see you guys next time. Thank you so much for joining.